Thank you for joining me. On today's episode of Bible Blueprint of the New Testament, we are looking at the book of Second Corinthians. Now, Second Corinthians is eighth in order of the New Testament. There are 13 chapters in the book, and the type of book it is epistle or Pauline. An overview on the book of Second Corinthians. Second Corinthians is actually the fourth letter Paul had written to the Corinthians, the first two having been lost. After three bad reports of their behavior, Paul finally had received a positive report of the church and wrote this letter as encouragement. Paul wrote to comfort those who suffered in the midst of afflictions and uses his biography as an example of honesty, hope, and devotion despite difficult circumstances. Now, Second Corinthians was written between 55 to 56 AD. The time period covered all eras in the age of grace, and the author is Apostle Paul. Now, there are four sections to the book of Second Corinthians. Section 1, crucial issues. We see this in chapters 1 through 7. Paul addresses crucial issues such as forgiveness, love, hope in God's deliverance, separation from the world, and confidence in God's devotion. Section 2, Paul talks about giving. We see this in chapters 8 through 9. Paul talks about the joy of giving, especially when in poverty. Using the Macedonians as an example, he encourages generosity and then reminds the saints of God's gift to man. Section 3, Paul talks about his life. We see this in chapters 10 through 12. Paul gives his testimony to show his love for the church and what he endured for Christ's companionship. He reveals the importance of weaknesses as a thorn in the flesh and that they can be glorified in as reminders of Jesus Christ. Section 4, one final warning. We see this in chapter 13. Paul closes his address and exhorts the Corinthians to test their righteousness to determine their standing with God. He invites them to do good and to be an example to others. Well, that brings us to the end of our overview on the book of Second Corinthians. That's all for now. God bless.